Christopher Creek loving cats and kittens out there. I am Dominic Fopoli, one of the owners here. I'm here with my brother Joe and our wonderful winemaker Mike. So today we're going to be trying, for the first time ever, our entire horizontal of our Italian wines. And this has been a very, very special project for us. Growing up, spending our summers with our grandparents and our cousins in northern Italy. All of these wines have a specific connection to us growing up. So, Joe, you want to tell the story about what Dad would always tell us about the first wine that we're going to try?
Yeah, so this is Barbera. We've been talking about doing a Barbera for years. So 2018, we finally found access to this really great, unique vineyard, kind of northern Dry Creek outside of Rock Powell. Yeah. But our father used to always talk about, as a teenager, tasting Barbera d'Asti. Our great-grandmother was from Piemonte, and it was kind of a wine that he always said that changed his life. So we would taste some Barberas with him growing up and drink some Barberas, but to find something that was such a unique and true expression from our own region was something that's always been on our list, and we're so excited about this. I mean, you can look at the color and just smell, and clearly this is unfinished wine, not bottled yet, but just has so much going on, so different than everything else we make already here.
So, Mike, this is the first time that we've ever made a Barbera. Have you made Barbera before in your career?
Never have.
So yeah. Tell us what it was like making the first vintage of our Christopher Creek Barbera.
Well, I mean, stunning fruit. Comes in looking great. The Merlots do a great job of farming out there. The vine's been in the ground for about 30 years, so it's really a pretty balanced vineyard in its own right. Not a lot of water used in that area. We get it in, it was like late September, I think it was the 28th, a good friend's birthday actually, and it was ready to go. We actually would normally do a cold soak on a lot of our wines, but we don't do any cold soak on this wine. We actually encourage it to start its fermentation by not chilling down the tank. So goes through the regular sort of thing, 3 punch downs a day, but the difference is that Barbera is notorious for getting too tannic. And here in America, we can't release wines that people have to put in their cellar for 10 years. They just don't do it around here. So we actually pressed off sweet at about 5 bricks because we felt that the structure was right where we wanted, and that stops the extraction process. Then it's been in barrel ever since. About 40% new French oak. With medium toast. We didn't want to go too heavy on it. This one, it's going to be around for 20 years. It's a beast, but it's also very subtle in a lot of ways. Its fruit is pretty dynamic on the front, but on the mid palate, it's nice and gentle. Really classic Barbera acidic line running through right through the middle of it. When you taste it, you can see that it's a special wine, and it's starting to show some of those characteristics again that are very California, but at the same time they speak of hundreds and hundreds of years of heritage. You can taste it.
And honestly, this is so much what we're about here at Christopher Creek, and just what all of us love about wine is finding something that's just so incredible and unique at the same time, and doing something differently than other wineries or other people with this, and it kind of just goes to, this is as much a passion as a business for us, and to be able to create these just kind of unique wines with a story and connected to our heritage. We're really excited about this wine.
It's just got such an amazing balance, and it's got it lasts for a while, which is what I really like about it. And it's already reminding me of the meals that we would have throughout childhood in Italy. Because it was always kind of the Nebbiolo first, because that was the queen. We had to have the fancy bottle of wine. But then we would go into the Barbera because it was kind of just the consistent heart of the meal. And then generally we would go into Dolcetto after that. And then of course the Vin Santo that our grandfather always loved. But this always reminds me of such a hearty, this is when we were eating the heart, the mid part of the meal. Mm-hmm. And such just amazing feelings drinking this wine because this has meant so much to us growing up. So great job on this, Mike. I appreciate it.
And again, these are the 4 to 6 course meals that we grew up with.
All right, so the next one we're going to try is our Dolcetto. We've been making Dolcetto for a few years now, and we love this wine So growing up, it sounds kind of funny, but we would always drink this when we had pizza. So homemade pizza or something a little bit more.
With cheese and the cheese and the fruit after the meal as well.
This is a relaxed Italian varietal for us to drink. It was a very rare night when we would only have one bottle of Dolcetto. Just because you don't even realize it's so smooth, especially the way that Mike that you make this. It's got such a consistent, smooth flavor all the way through that you just end up just enjoying it and enjoying it. We've had some customers come in and get a half a case and come back a couple days later to restock.
Yeah.
Which is I think a huge compliment to the wine.
So in Italy and Piemonte, where it's originally from, it's kind of the everyday wine that you drink with the pizza and pastas while they're waiting for the Barolos and Barbarescos to age for a decade or more. But as is kind of in vogue in some county in California in general, to take something that was traditionally like an everyday wine or food and do an elevated version of it. So we do really low yields in the vineyard with this. You do about 40% new French oak for about 18 months on it, 15 to 18 months.
Right.
So it's definitely taking something that was traditionally in the old world, an everyday table wine, but doing just kind of a really kind of unique expression of it.
Yeah, and it's actually with the wild yeast fermentation that we do on these wines, it's actually gets 10% whole cluster as well, which typically would show some stemminess, but this doesn't show any of that at all. It's really well integrated. It gives it just a little bit of grip on the finish, which if you're having it with food, you really want that to be the case. So yeah, we watch our temps on this because if it gets too hot during fermentation, it can really make it too big. And we're not trying to make a bombastic wine. We're trying to make something that again sort of gives a tip of the hat to Italy, but it also shows that we're in California and we do things our way.
So Mike, the most common question I think we get from our consumers about this wine is it sweet? Because they see the name Dolcetto. So do you want to explain?
Well, yeah, I mean it's numerically dry. It's a dry wine, but it has a perceived sweetness to it that lends to its quaffability. Really, it's what is so interesting about this wine is you almost said it when we did say it. It was that you almost don't notice you're drinking it. It just kind of goes by. It isn't the wine until about the second or third glass, and you're getting courageous with your words that you start to go, oh well, now I'm starting to get some of this. But the first glass or two are just, hey, how you been? Da da da. It really doesn't take the front stage at all until a little bit later, and then maybe that's more the alcohol than anything.
And what I love, I think the biggest compliment that we get in Italy when we're talking to our cousins who are in the wine industry, winemakers or sommeliers, was that it has all of those wonderful drinkability qualities, but in Italy they look at this as like a simple wine, and they're like, this is Dolcetto, it's supposed to be simple, but this is not.
Yeah.
Like we make like a complex, almost more premium version of a wine while still keeping the drinkability of it, which I think is a huge compliment to the growing and everything you've done with this. So this is one of my favorite just everyday drinking wines. So
Yeah, me too.
And real quick, as we've been dealing with all of this kind of a lot of stay-at-home time recently, my wife does a really amazing slow-cooked chili with just kind of all different types of beans and sausages and stuff. We did some wild boar sausages. We got it from Big John's up in Healdsburg, and this paired amazingly well with it. It was just so complimentary of different kind of spices and flavors in the chili. So it's such a versatile wine.
It really is, yeah.
All right, so the next wine we're going to try is something from deep in our family library, as opposed to most family libraries out there that consist of books. Our family library is full of wine. Which is, I think, a much more fun type of library. So this is actually really, really special to my brother and I because it was the first time that we'd ever made an Italian varietal in America. So this is our 2011 Nebbiolo Sangiovese. This is honestly a wine that the idea was to make for our grandfathers. So, at the time we had, at that point, grandfathers in their 80s and 90s, and they always wanted to have something that had some complexity but would pair really, really well with food. So Sangiovese is a unique varietal for us growing up as well, because we would normally be eating cuisine from the far north, but the one time that we would have, I guess the exception to that, when we're going north of Rome, but south of our area, would be eating the steak Fiorentina. And I think this is a perfect wine to go with it. Joe, you want to talk about the blending?
Of course, Sangiovese originally from Tuscany. It's the main grape in the Chianti wine, even that people are more familiar with. That in America often has kind of the straw cask, which may have a negative connotation. But again, we're trying to do something that's a little more elevated. So with this particular Sangiovese, we wanted to take the Sangiovese grape and do kind of a tribute to a lighter version of a super Tuscan style wine. So we blended some Bordeaux varietals. There's some Cab Franc, a little bit of Merlot from Napa Valley in this particular vintage. St. Helena blended about 25% into this, and 75% Sangiovese. So has a little bit of grip. Still makes it a very versatile food wine. Can stand up to a nice lean steak like the bistecca fiorentina that my brother mentioned, but also really versatile with, I used to always like to say, any wines that start with, or any foods that start with P: pasta, pizza, poultry, pork. And Mike, what do you think about this one? I mean, this is before we got connected in 2012, but.
Well, I can speak to the vintage. I know just based on information I've seen from this wine that it was picked before rains and all that sort of stuff. So tough vintage, but this wine was picked before that, and 11 gets a bad rap for anybody who's actually paying attention and watching these things. If you can find 2011s from any of your local growers, those are hidden treats, and this one is no exception. It's a beauty. It's showing a little bit of that sort of Napa quality on the nose, but on the finish, again, it's back to heritage and food friendliness and all the things that you want from a wine that's 9 years old. So
I think you bring up a good point too, because this is one of our wines that was produced from Napa Valley in 2011. I remember a vintage coming in. It was so tight, and people were very concerned about would it ever be as expressive as some of the vintages around it. But all of a sudden, you're right. If you've got 2011 in your cellar from Napa Valley, it's now beginning to show just amazingly beautiful qualities.
yeah.
And so we set aside a handful of cases of this and hid it in the library. And if anybody wants some, this is a wonderful wine to enjoy right now. And it's over probably the next couple of months as you're sitting at home and you're trying to have some fun and try different wines that you've never tried. This is really, really unique that we actually have a little bit of 2011 of our Sangiovese, our version of the Super Tuscan, available. So it's a fun wine, and enjoy it. So our Italian wines we're going to try. It's so incredibly special. It's our Nebbiolo. So I think the only appropriate thing here would be to have a discussion about this in Italian. So per il prossimo vino abbiamo
Caso vuoi dire?
nostra regina dei nostri vini, perché è più alto, la qualità è. Just kidding, Mike. We're not going to do that. So fun backstory as we get into the Nebbiolo. We're actually now producing Nebbiolo here and in Italy. So Mike flew over with me to produce the first vintage in Italy, and it was the most funny thing to see two different styles, very different. Proud winemakers, our consulting winemaker in Italy, and Mike, and having to kind of translate back and forth between you guys. Maybe not always translating what you were saying, so not to offend the other. But it ended up making beautiful wines. And the fun part about this too is this is our second time making this wine. 2015 was kind of the first time you ever made Nebbiolo. And Joe, you want to talk about what happened with that vintage from a rating standpoint?
Yeah, so I mean, again, everything we do is kind of a work in progress experiment and just a work of passion and labor of love. But we suggested that we try to do the highest ends and most premium and most noteworthy style of Nebbiolo in our family's region is called Sforzato, where it's a similar process to Amarone, where they dry out the grapes, of course, for a month or more on racks. And Mike literally had to look it up on YouTube on how to do it when you don't have the conditions, because where we're from in Italy, they just open up the cellar doors and the winds come in from off Lake Como and dry the grapes out naturally. We don't have those same conditions here. So,
frutiles, which is
so we
just for this
literally
thing.
just kind of built some racks and created like this little kind of sulfur water
Little
spray
area.
to keep it from rotting out during the month, and then press that and blend it in. So it ended up being about 20% of the Sorzato style grapes blended in with more traditionally pressed. And what do you want to talk about that? You need about 40% new French oak on that as well.
40% new French
almost
oak
50
on
years.
that. Yeah, actually, one of the things that sticks out to me is when we go to the vineyard for the first time to go look at the fruit, and we drive up, and the last name is Camporelli. I'm like, oh, well, that's a good start from the Nebbiolo guy. And then we walk up and shake hands with this guy, and you guys are like, oh, we've seen you for and so and da da da, and it's like it's like a family. Like all of a sudden, it's a family.
Yeah, we
and
see
I'm
your
like,
family.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be cool. But then we started reading about it, and it's one of the most difficult wines we make, really, because we spend a lot of time. It's coming in right in the middle of everything, so we've got 15 other varietals out there, but this one takes a little more attention because we have to set those racks aside. We have to make sure that the fermentation doesn't get too hot, because like Syrah, it reduces really quick. So you have to make sure that you're consistently and constantly moving this
Doesn't it
wine.
change color during
It
fermentation?
changes
as well?
color. It goes from this brick orange color, and I really mean orange, to like, oh my God, what did we do? Did somebody put something in here wrong or something? To red overnight. Like just one day, you're like, we didn't do anything different, and it changed color. So all those phenols are just working overtime in there, and that's why it's really nice to have that additional 15 to 20% of really essentially dehydrated fruit with the same pH typically. So you have a little bit of leeway to sort of blend it back in. We went with all of it, but I'm guessing when you do it in the level that they do up in your area of Italy, that they really fine tune it. They've got, like you're saying, they've got buildings specifically for letting this fruit sort of age in these baskets. We were much smaller, of course. I mean, it ended up being like 300 or 400 pounds or something like that. But it was enough that you can taste the difference. You really can. And as a result, it was really highly rated by
Robert Parker.
by
One of the
Robert
highest
Parker,
rated Nebbiolos outside of Italy ever.
It's been,
For our first try, not bad.
Yeah, not bad. So this is your second try. So it's gonna be and for my brother and I, this is such an important wine for us, because for those of you guys who've been over to our area, the Valtellina, with us on the wine club trip over, stayed at the castle, 99% of everything that we grow over there is this grape. So this is something that we were raised with. It goes in all of our local cuisine. We have this as a risotto with pizzoccheri, for anybody who's been over there. It's just, and there's all kinds of different, slight difference in versions of this. And I guess that one of the proudest moments from our American wine production side was bringing this over there, and people being very skeptical at first, and then trying it, and then opening their arms and saying, "This is our grape." One of the probably the most famous restaurant in our entire valley, Restaurante Gin, when they tried it, they said, "Can we put this on our list?" And it's the only American wine on this very famous Italian list is this Nebbiolo, and they've been around for over 50 years, and they've never allowed an American wine on their list until this wine, which I think
One
is
of the only
awesome.
Michelin recognized restaurants in our area.
damn, that's cool.
So it's amazing, and this is by far my favorite of the Italian wines that we've ever produced, because it's our entire childhood and being.
Yes, and anybody out there new to us, also Nebbiolo, of course, is the grape that's in Barolo and Barbaresco from Piemonte, which are obviously world recognized guys and things as well. But this is a style more indicative of our area in North Central above Lake Como.
And if anybody didn't understand my Italian earlier, I was saying this is the queen of the wines. This is what's always what was considered kind of the top one. It's not an over huge poured out. It's it's got some lighter, more subtle characteristics to it, but it's still just as powerful in its own way.
Right.
It's just, and this is something, if you haven't had it yet, you need to order it right now because our 15, we got the ratings sold out like this. This is not officially released yet, but if you send an email or call us, we can get you some bottles. Because if you don't get it soon, we're just going to drink it all ourselves. So, well, salute, guys.
Yeah.
Salute.
So those are our Italian wines, and they're very, very limited quantities of all 4 of them. So
The Barbera, the Dolcetto, the Sangiovese, and finally Nebbiolo.
yes, so if you want any of these wines, they'll help you get through this.
I'm sure there's a link at the bottom of the screen right now.
Or you just call. Honestly, feel free to always call us, and if you have any questions, we're around. These are great wines to really experiment and try if you haven't had any of some of these varietals before, and to just see how they go with different kinds of foods. So this is the way that our family is getting through kind of this difficult, unique time of spending so much time at home, is really sharing more and more different wines with each other and talking about them. So we encourage people to, as you get these wines, watch these videos with your family, and then you can kind of feel what we're feeling as you're enjoying the wines. So,
Salute.
salute.